Despite a dreadful and unhealthy 2024, is Taijuan Walker really going to make the Phillies 2025 opening day roster? Let's talk about it next right here on the PHOY Phillies podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHOY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here with you. I thought today we're just going to have a conversation. No fancy graphics, no script, just me and you talking about something that feels like it's closer and closer to a foregone conclusion, even though I don't think any of us are particularly excited about it. I think Taijuan Walker is going to make the Phillies opening day roster. Let's go back to 2024 for just a second. Taijuan Walker made 15 starts last year with a 3-7 record and a 7.1 ERA. Of pitchers who saw at least 300 plate appearances, that ranked dead last across baseball. He gave up 66 earned runs, which ranked in the top 60 in Major League Baseball last season, but only Roddery Munoz and Slade Cecconi gave up more earned runs within the top 100 and faced fewer batters during the season. No one who gave up more earned runs than Walker last year faced fewer than 485. That was Kenta Maeda. Maeda, however, had a 6.09 ERA, which runs a full point better than what Walker had, and he was eighth for the worst ERA across baseball among those similar qualifications. To further the conversation, Taijuan Walker was 3-4 with a 7.25 ERA in starts in which the Phillies gave him at least 3 runs of support and posted a near 8 ERA across 20 1/3 innings pitched when the Phillies gave him 6 or more runs of support. The point being, Taijuan Walker's 2024 was dreadful, but this past weekend, Taijuan Walker pitched in Dunedin against the Blue Jays, and his velocity was up. So why then are there any reasons as to why Taijuan Walker may make the opening day roster, considering the fact his 2024 was so bad? Well, I think there's 18,000,003 reasons why. The 18 million, of course, is how much money Taijuan Walker is going to make in 2025. That's a really steep contract for a guy who is a borderline major league pitcher at this point. But those other 3 reasons I think are a little bit more categorical, and we can discuss in further detail. The first one, Rob Thomson clearly loves Taijuan Walker. A manager of Rob Thomson's ilk, having gone to a World Series, having been to an NLCS, or having been to 2 NLCS for that matter, having been in the postseason 3 consecutive years, kind of gets a decision on where they want to manage when a team has split squad opportunities. More times than not, that type of manager will take the chance to stay in their home ballpark, not have to hit the road. And it would have made sense for Rob Thomson to manage in Clearwater against the Baltimore Orioles on Sunday. Instead, he went on the road with the team to Dunedin to manage the game against the Blue Jays. What does that mean? That means Rob Thomson loves Taijuan Walker. He's clearly a pretty good clubhouse guy as well. From all accounts, he seems like an excellent dude and an excellent teammate. And that means something to a manager, and that means something to an organization. What does that mean? I don't necessarily know, but I think that Taijuan Walker's liked enough and really liked by the manager to have some sort of sway in this type of conversation. In fact, Rob Thomson said, quote, "I mean, if somebody else doesn't throw well and he's throwing great, who knows what's going to happen? We've got a ways to go yet, and usually it works itself out." That was in part to a question where he was asked about would Taijuan Walker make the opening day roster as part of the bullpen. And in fact, Rob Thomson went a step further and said, there's a chance he might make the rotation. But it seems like Rob Thomson is a big Taijuan Walker fan. The second part of this conversation is Taijuan Walker is a very difficult trade piece. Does anybody actually want Taijuan Walker? And even if they do, is that team willing to take on $18 million over each of the next 2 seasons? Nah, probably not. So the Phillies would then have to find a trade partner who not only wants Taijuan Walker on their roster for the next 2 years, but also would have to find a way to see how much money that they're going to have to eat in order to facilitate that type of trade. How much money? I think that remains to be seen. The realization is the more money that the Phillies eat, the better the return on investment would be. I think if the Phillies offered to eat half of the contract, you're probably looking at a C-tier prospect. The more money that they're willing to eat, the better a prospect in return that they're going to get. In no way do the Phillies end up acquiring a top 20 type of prospect for Taijuan Walker, but the return gets greater the more money the Phillies are willing to eat. The less money the Phillies are willing to eat, it becomes closer to probably a low C tier prospect, or even one of the situations where it becomes a player to be named later type of deal. And at that point, or what point, do the Phillies say, it's not worth our investment, even if we're eating this much money for such a minimal return? I don't know exactly what that number is, but I do know that the Phillies' monetary investment in Taijuan Walker continues to make him a difficult trade piece, assuming that they're only willing to eat a fraction of the salary. The third part, and this comes according to Baseball Reference, is that Taijuan Walker has 10.142 years of Major League Baseball service time. Now, why do I bring that up? Because that's more than triple the 3-year threshold that's needed to refuse an outright assignment to AAA, and it's more than double the 5-year mark to refuse the assignment and still get paid his guaranteed money by electing free agency. The point is, the Phillies could quote-unquote release Taijuan Walker, but regardless of what happens, assuming a trade isn't facilitated, the Phillies are on the hook for the remaining $36 million. So no matter what, if he's traded, then of course that conversation becomes different. But if the Phillies do try to outright assign him, which the likelihood of that happening is probably pretty slim, and he accepts the assignment, the Phillies still are going to have to pay him. And if the Phillies try to outright assign him or release him outright, no matter what, it's guaranteed money. Taijuan Walker is still going to be paid $36 million by the Phillies. So no matter what the outcome, unless, again, it is a trade, the Phillies are going to be on the hook for another $36 million to Taijuan Walker over the next 2 seasons. So if the final pitching roster spot comes down to someone on the 40-man roster, such as a Max Lazar, or somebody not on the 40 but is a non-roster invitee, think about guys like Koyo Ayagi, Nabil Krismet, John McMillan, or Taijuan Walker, I think Taijuan Walker has the inside track to make the opening day roster. And whether that becomes as part of the bullpen, which is the likelier scenario, or as Rob Thomson alluded to, and maybe this is just trying to pump up Taijuan Walker's trade facility, part of even the rotation, I do think you're going to see a case in which one of the 26 men on the 26-man roster, when the team breaks camp and heads to Washington to take on the Nationals for opening day, is going to be Taijuan Walker.